the Great Tribulation and the Sealing of the 144,000. Welcome to Pleroma Pathways, Apocalyptic and Mystic Christianity, where we explore esoteric and apocalyptic texts. The Great Tribulation as an extended period. Many assume the Great Tribulation mentioned in Matthew 24:21 refers to a short, intense period of suffering at the very end of history. However, a closer examination of biblical texts reveals that the Great Tribulation spans a long period, beginning with the Jewish-Roman Wars and continuing until the second coming of Christ. Jesus said in Matthew 24:21-22, "For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened." This prophecy, in its immediate historical context, refers to the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD. However, it is not limited to that event. Jesus' discourse in Matthew 24 describes events that continue until his return, which means the Great Tribulation extends across history, encompassing times of persecution, apostasy, and divine judgment. Revelation 7:14 confirms this understanding. "These are they which came out of great tribulation, and have washed their robes, and made them white in the blood of the Lamb." The verb "came out of," Greek, erkomenoi ek, suggests an ongoing process rather than a single event. This means the 144,000 are continually emerging from tribulation, not preserved from it. They endure suffering, persecution, and trials as part of their faithfulness to Christ. The 144,000, a spiritual number representing the redeemed. Revelation 7 verse 4 states, "And I heard the number of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel." This number should not be taken literally. It is symbolic of the totality of the redeemed, representing the Israel of God, Galatians 6:16, composed of both Jews and Gentiles who have accepted the Christian faith. The 144,000 are not national Israel, but spiritual Israel, the faithful believers who endure through the Great Tribulation. Paul clarifies in Romans 2, verse 28-29, "For he is not a Jew, which is one outwardly, neither is that circumcision, which is outward in the flesh, but he is a Jew, which is one inwardly. And circumcision is that of the heart, in the spirit, and not in the letter, whose praise is not of men, but of God." This means that the true Israel is composed of those who follow Christ, regardless of their ethnic background. The 144,000 are not a specific, literal group, but represent all the faithful believers across time who endure tribulation. The sealing of the 144,000, a process throughout history. Revelation 7 verse 3 states, "Hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads." This sealing is not about physical protection from harm, but about spiritual identity. The 144,000 are marked as belonging to God, bearing his name on their foreheads. Revelation 14 verse 1. This does not mean they are spared from suffering, as Revelation 7:14 makes clear that they endure tribulation. The sealing process is ongoing throughout history, aligning with the continuous emergence of believers from the Great Tribulation. Historically, this aligns with various Christian movements that rejected the false doctrines of the dominant church structures. From 1453 onward, reformers began to challenge doctrines like the Trinity and the immortality of the soul, aligning with the biblical call to return to purity in faith. Movements such as the Anabaptists, Unitarians, Muggletonians, and Socinians rejected these teachings, advocating a return to biblical Christianity. Later groups like the Church of God of Abrahamic Faith and Bible students, modern-day biblical Unitarians, also rejected these doctrines. These believers, throughout history, have been part of the spiritual Israel, sealed as God's people amidst the ongoing tribulation. The 12 tribes is a symbol of spiritual Israel. The listing of the 12 tribes in Revelation 7 is not identical to the historical tribes of Israel. This reinforces that the tribes represent something spiritual rather than national. Judah is listed first, emphasizing Christ as the Lion of Judah. Levi, who had no land inheritance, is included, highlighting the priestly role of believers, Revelation 5:9-10. Dan is omitted. possibly due to its association with judgment and idolatry. Ephraim is replaced by Joseph, signifying restoration and unity. This unique arrangement shows that the 144,000 represent the full body of redeemed believers, both Jews and Gentiles, who are spiritually counted as Israel. The 144,000 and the New Jerusalem. Revelation 21 describes the New Jerusalem, where the 12 gates bear the names of the 12 tribes, and the 12 foundations bear the names of the 12 apostles. Revelation 21, 12-14. This confirms that the 144,000 represent the full unity of God's people, believers from both the Old and New Covenant. Revelation 21:17 states, "And he measured the wall thereof, 144 cubits, according to the measure of a man, that is, of the angel." This echoes the symbolic nature of 144,000, showing that the redeemed are the foundation of God's eternal kingdom. Conclusion: the 144,000 and the Great Tribulation. The Great Tribulation began with the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD and continues until the second coming of Christ. The 144,000 are not a literal number, but represent all faithful believers, Jews and Gentiles, who endure through this extended period of suffering. Their sealing is not about escaping tribulation, but about spiritual identification with God. They endure suffering, persecution, and hardship, emerging from the Great Tribulation as the true Israel of God. As Revelation 7:9 confirms, the redeemed are far greater than 144,000. After this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands. Thus, the sealing of the 144,000 is an ongoing process throughout history, marking those who remain faithful to God despite persecution. They are the true Israel, the Church of God, who will be fully gathered at the return of Jesus Christ.